All right. Awesome. Seeing some thumbs up. Thanks so much. All right, so just want to give you a quick overview of what we're up to today. So I'm going to start us out by sharing a few slides with an overview and some more information about the call and the program. And then basically we'll open it up to you for questions. So fairly simple. I will ask that once we get into questions, that folks either write their questions in the chat or raise their hands, and then we'll get right into it. I will note as well, just that we may not have all the answers today, but that we're happy to follow up with folks individually, and that we'll be posting a recording of today's session along with some answers to frequently asked questions as they come in on our website as well. So we're excited to start the conversation today, but with more conversations to come. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and share a couple slides with you all. And I would welcome folks just to mute themselves for now. I see most folks are muted, just in case you've got anything going on in the background. Thanks so much. All right. All right, can folks see my screen okay? All right. So welcome again. Excited to be spending this time with you all today to share a little bit more about our call for partners, building culture and community in public space. So first, I just want to share a little bit about who we are. So here at the Urban Design Forum, we are a membership organization of over 750 professionals in the fields of design, planning, engineering, advocacy, and more. And through our programs, we mobilize designers and policymakers to confront the defining issues in the built environment. And we're really grounded in the belief that designers should build with and not for historically disenfranchised communities. We're really excited to be partnering with the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development on this initiative, so that's all the friendly folks on the right. ANHD builds community power to win affordable housing and thriving, equitable neighborhoods for all New Yorkers. And really our two organizations have come together to support new collaborations between designers and community development leaders to help realize community-driven visions for public space in New York. So the core of this program is really that we want to support your visions for public space in your neighborhood. And at the core, we really believe that public spaces can interrogate under-acknowledged and marginalized histories, can celebrate diverse and cultural identities, and can build powerful community connections that encourage belonging. So through this program, I want to just give you a sense of how this program works, big picture, and then I'll go into the details. So big picture, we will partner with 4 neighborhood organizations with funds, technical assistance, and capacity building. Those are our neighborhood partners in the center here. We will recruit design, planning, engineering, and legal firms to provide low bono technical assistance to support each project. So those are the partner teams surrounding the neighborhood partners. As part of the program, we'll connect you with relevant city agencies to support the work. And kind of holding everything together, UDF and ANHD act as facilitators and connectors to support capacity building, cross-project learning, and longer-term advocacy and planning for your projects. So these are the core offerings that we're able to offer as part of this program. Funding, technical assistance, connections, capacity building, and access to a learning community. So let me give you a little more detail about each of those. So first, funding. So for this program, we can offer up to $125,000 over the course of 2 years to each team to build internal capacity in support of the project, to support low bono technical assistance fees, and to develop public space activations and programming. And we'll work with neighborhood partners and project teams over the course of project development to develop a budget that makes sense for your project idea. So you don't have to know exactly how you would use that money right now. A core of this program really is technical assistance. So pulling from our interdisciplinary network at UDF, we'll recruit a dedicated low bono team for each project based on specific needs, right? So types of technical assistance providers include architects, graphic designers, urban planners, engineers, legal experts. Those are just a couple of the types of expertise that we've worked with. And as part of this project, neighborhood partners will help to select and direct their project teams. And the project teams will support in project scoping, site assessments, design, permitting, and things like the construction of a short-term installation project in public space. So we recognize that taking on projects in public space is about more than just the design questions, right? And we're excited to support neighborhood partners with trainings and tailored support to be thinking about things like project development, organizational growth and strategic planning, fundraising, and project sustainability and longer term advocacy for your project. So we hope that this work, in addition to kind of shorter term activations, will enable partners to longer term think about sustaining their work in public space design, activation, and management. To support the work, we also plan to connect project teams with relevant city agencies to help navigate permitting and approvals. And partners and teams will also join a robust learning community with peer organizations across the city, learning with and from each other across the process, or throughout the process. And over the 2 years of this project, we'll facilitate a mix of in-person and virtual learning sessions and peer exchange opportunities to help build collective knowledge on community-driven design and cultural public space work. So what could these projects look like? We really want to welcome your ideas here, recognizing that there are many wonderful, thoughtful, creative ways to engage in your neighborhood's culture, histories, and stories in public space. So I really don't want to see this list as prescriptive, but hopefully inspiring. So that being said, a few examples of the types of work we could do together include a seasonal market that celebrates local food traditions, open streets activations for community gathering and storytelling, place-based signage to tell local histories, an arts festival, engaging in cultural traditions, and many more that I'm sure you all have thought of that we haven't thought of yet. So we also know that public space can mean a lot of things, right? And we're welcoming ideas that engage in spaces that are accessible to the public, including streets, plazas, parks, libraries, senior centers, rooftops, community gardens, and more. Recognizing that these spaces don't necessarily need to be accessible to the public 24/7, but they should be publicly accessible at least some of the time. So as you're thinking about what space you're interested in, that's something to keep in mind. I want to share a few projects for inspiration as you think about the type of work you might be interested in undertaking. In the Bronx, Boogie on the Boulevard reimagined how a street, in this case, Grand Concourse, could be transformed into different kinds of public space for pedestrians, people on wheels, and the community. Artists Elizabeth Hamby and Atoy Ramos Fermin led the project and engaged with local artists. And the project also included a campaign to reinstate car-free Sundays on the Grand Concourse. In New Orleans, through the Paper Monuments Project, Framing History was created to support democratically produced public memory with posters mounted in recycled picture frames throughout the city telling local stories. And here in New York's Chinatown, through the Neighborhoods Now partnership with the Van Allen Institute, the Chinatown Market activates Forsyth Plaza as a place for community to come together, celebrate, and claim safe space in the public realm. And local vendors, artisans, and artisans share food, crafts, stories, and so much more. So these are just a few of many possibilities, recognizing there are many, many more. So we look forward to hearing your ideas. So I want to give you a sense of the arc of the program in general, recognizing that we will welcome projects ranging in scale and timeline from as short as 6 months to as long as 18 months. So here we are in fall 2022, where we're inviting partners like you to share ideas, and we'll select 4 partners, as I mentioned. Starting in February, we'll recruit our project teams of technical assistance providers. So if you remember the map, these are the folks, the low bono technical assistance providers like planners, engineers, architects, that sort of thing. in time for our projects to begin in earnest in May 2023. So we recognize that beginning may actually look different for each project, but at that point in May, we'll really pair and assemble teams and to launch dedicated project activities over the next year plus. And so from May 2023 to December 2024, that could look like things like neighborhood engagement with your team, site analysis and planning, design ideation and iteration, pilot project construction, and activation and temporary programming of the site. And as the program comes to a close in December 2024, UDF and ANHD and the project teams will work to support the partners in really looking ahead towards long-term visioning, towards thinking about more long-term plans, and even considering things like capital improvement advocacy, depending on the project. All right, so let's talk about eligibility a little bit. So we're really excited to welcome partners who come from organizations like community development organizations, cultural groups, merchant groups, under-resourced business improvement districts, and community-based organizations, recognizing that they do need to be registered as a 501c3 for the purpose of this program. And that we really are excited to be working in a majority of BIPOC and or immigrant neighborhoods that face historic disinvestment in public space, under-resourcing of neighborhood organizations, or other forms of economic insecurity. So partners that are doing work in those neighborhoods will be who we're likely focusing on working with. And also organizations with deep community ties. So folks that are working deeply in the neighborhoods that they are based. We also will welcome organizations of varying sizes, recognizing that we are just asking folks to have at least one staff member to be able to support this project. And we also welcome organizations to work in collaboration. So I know culture projects are often beautiful interdisciplinary things. So excited for your ideas about collaborations with neighborhood-based artists, producers, cultural bearers, historians, performers, or organizers to help you enact your vision for culture in public space through this work. We also welcome projects that in various stages of development. So this could be a project that you've been thinking about for a long time, but maybe haven't had the chance to try. Maybe this is something you've tried at a small scale, but haven't had a chance to really think about expanding or making more robust. So really, really welcome your ideas at a range of scales here. In general, just so you know, folks that we're not able to work with through this program include organizations that are outside of the 5 boroughs of New York City. So our organizations and our work really are focused here locally, recognizing that there's lots of great work to do around the country, but that our expertise and our networks really are best served to support in the 5 boroughs of New York City. We also aren't able to work with all volunteer initiatives or folks that aren't registered as a 501c3. So big picture in general, I think we're really excited for projects that interrogate under-acknowledged and erased histories, that celebrate diverse and cultural identities, or that express unique neighborhood stories. We're also welcoming projects that respond to neighborhood context and needs, and that in particular would benefit from design and planning technical assistance. So as I mentioned in the kind of core of what we're able to offer through this program, the technical assistance from our designers, planners, engineers really is a big piece of what we're able to support here. So just want to make sure that projects do have a component that could really benefit from that support. And finally, projects that both demonstrate an ambitious, potentially longer-term vision, while acknowledging that in the context of this program, we do want to be able to do some work that is possible within these 6 to 18 months. So, we really are aiming to support projects that have the opportunity to build from pilot towards longer term work. So even if the full vision can't be accomplished within the initial 18 months, maybe we could accomplish a meaningful step or a demonstration of what's possible that can then allow you to advocate more fully for your full scale vision. All right, so what do you need to do? The short answer is submit an interest form. Once I'm done screen sharing, I'll share a link for the interest form in the chat as well. But hopefully this will be a fairly simple lift, 10 to 20 minutes or so, but it really just has two key components here. First is some basic information about your organization. So your mission, your key programs, who you serve, some simple questions like that. Hopefully if you have done, other types of grant applications or things, please feel free to reuse language, pull from there. We don't want you to have to replicate too much of this work. And then the second key piece is really just what your project idea is. So what public space you're interested in activating, please feel free to share a photo, snap a photo and send it to us. I think that's really exciting to be able to kind of visualize and see where you're excited about potentially working. And then really simply what you would like to do in that space, who you hope to serve, your relationship with this community, and who you might be potentially interested in collaborating with. So as I mentioned, collaborations with artists and local storytellers and more are really welcome. So this would be the place to say, if you either have folks in mind already that you're already in collaboration with, or if you have folks that you're interested in potentially collaborating with. It's helpful for us to know kind of what stage that relationship is in, but just let us know kind of what you're thinking about there. And as I mentioned, keep it brief. This isn't a formal application. All right, so what's next? So the main thing is to submit an interest form by December 12th. Again, we hope this doesn't take more than 10 to 20 minutes or so to complete. From there, we'll reach out to schedule a call with you to learn more about your idea and to basically work to create a simple proposal based on our conversation. So we'll support you with that. We really don't want this to be a heavy lift or too onerous of a project. From there, an invited jury will select 4 partners in January 2023. And that's kind of, then we'll hit the ground running with 4 partners. So I think that's all I've got so far. Happy to open it up for questions now. Just so you know, here's our email. If you have additional questions you'd like to discuss with us, we'll dive into a bunch today, but I'll just keep this up on the screen for a minute just in case folks want to jot down our email. But this is a great place to reach me, to reach Catherine, to reach folks, and we work closely with folks at ANHD as well. So we're happy to chat further. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing screen, get back on, see some of your beautiful faces. And open the floor for questions. So during this question session, I'll just ask that folks use the raise hand function. So hopefully folks can find that on their Zoom screen, and then we'll open it up to you to share your questions. So I'm seeing one. Let's see. Bruce, I'll shoot it over to you first.
Just a quick question. We are a fiscally sponsored 501c3. We are not our own 501(c)(3). Is fiscally sponsored acceptable?
I think let me double check with our team. But I believe, so you are fiscally sponsored by another nonprofit is what you're saying. Right. Yeah. Let me double check, but we'll get back to you, Bruce, on that.
Okay.
Yeah. But thanks for the question. And I'm sure other folks might have that same question. And we'll happily add it to our frequently asked questions on the website as well. Other questions? Okay, I see some hands. Jim, let's go to you next.
Hi, I'm Jim from 34th Avenue Open Streets.
Hey, Jim. Oh yeah, sorry. I meant to say if folks want to introduce themselves at the top. Sorry, Bruce. And then to your question. Go for it, Jim.
We have 26 blocks of open streets.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very interesting to me because while, of course, we'd like some capital things done, is this also programming? Can this money be used for programming as well?
Yeah. So definitely a portion of the 125,000 can be used for programming. I think we're hoping that this kind of project as a whole supports both some design physical intervention activation to help demonstrate what's possible in the space, but also the programming, I think, is a really important piece to supporting the kind of cultural activation of space. So
'Cause I was thinking of something capital that would make some of our programming much easier.
mhm.
So that we could pair them up if try to, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I think they're definitely interlinked and so that makes a lot of sense. Definitely welcoming programming as part of this. Let's pass it to Karen next.
Hi there, I'm Karen Atlas, Naturally Occurring Cultural Districts, New York, or NOCDNY. And I wanted to know, this is a great program, but I was wondering if we've been working with a plaza in Kensington since 2016. But there, you know, if you want to take work that you've been doing, but you want to add a new phase to it, or you know, deepen the group that's stewarding the plaza, the community group, would this pay for a new, would that be eligible to add a phase to a project?
Yeah. So I think that's definitely eligible. I think part of what we might look for is if there's kind of like a meaningful addition. So instead of potentially just kind of replicating exactly what you were able to do before, if there's like basically how our team of technical assistants can support you in a new way that maybe you haven't been able to do something before. So I think that would be my initial thought there. Yeah, thanks, Karen. Angus, I'll go to you.
Hello, how you doing? Angus Fisher, Innovative Resilience, East Brooklyn Village. I had a question. So my organization is fairly new. I have my 501c3, have all paperwork to do that, and we are starting on a project with Livonia Avenue in the community. I wanted to know, how does do we qualify, and how can we well, basically, do we qualify? And if we do start the project with you all and decide, and we get some private funds to help support us in other aspects of the project, is that something that's allowed?
Yeah. So first, so you mentioned you are a 501c3. Yeah. So that definitely makes you eligible to apply. And so that's I think the first piece. And then the second piece is we definitely welcome folks to consider funding from other opportunities too. I think as part of this work, we're trying to basically support you realizing your vision, recognizing that, you know, $125,000 is support in some demonstration, but is not, you know, what's necessary to kind of enact full visions longer term. So definitely would hope that our team can also support project teams as they're thinking about other fundraising, as they're thinking about other places to go to. So I think we would definitely welcome you to apply. Bianca, I'll go to you next.
Okay, hi. So yeah, Bianca, I'm with Riseboro Community Partnership, and I work for a department called Our Food, and we do all kinds of justice work. My question is, what counts as public space? It sort of seems like an obvious answer, but as I read the announcement, I was like, maybe it's just, is it like actually owned by the public, or is it accessed by the public? So we have, to be clear, we have an urban farm that we operate that's 100% for community use, and it's open to the public 7 days a week or 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it is owned by Riseboro. So just wonder if that counts.
Yeah. So my first thought here is that the real piece here is accessible to the public, as opposed to being owned exclusively by the city. So we'll kind of double check with our broader team, but my initial thought here is that you would be eligible. And the piece really is that the space is accessible to the public. So yeah, that sounds wonderful. Other questions? I'm not seeing any additional hands right now. but welcome folks to raise their hand if they have other questions. I know I'm seeing some folks on the call. Oh, yep, I'm seeing Alec. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alec Duffy, he, him, his, with the Point CDC in the South Bronx. I had a question about, another question about public space. So we're considering a project with a local partner that's a their affordable housing development that's going up in the area, run by a nonprofit. And they have a plaza space as part of that, which is kind of, I guess it's like a public/private space. And we were just curious, I didn't see that particular designation on the list of eligible spaces. And I'm just curious if something like that might be considered a public space.
Yeah, yeah, I would say definitely eligible for definitely like submit an interest form if you're interested. I think
Got it.
we I'll have to like double check with our full team on the details there, but my initial thought is yes, I think you would be eligible.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alec. And I'm seeing also some folks on the call who I know may have some more kind of design and planning backgrounds as well. Just wanted to note too that we are going to be opening our call for technical assistance providers early next year. So if folks are interested in getting involved in these projects, but may not be from the kind of community partner or neighborhood partner side, there will be ways for folks to get involved starting early next year as well. But I would welcome other questions, other thoughts, reflections, ways we can clarify for y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah, was that Angus again? Go ahead.
okay, so I had another question, a follow-up question. We were looking at a space that like a city-owned space. I believe that it's possible, but it's city-owned property in the community that's on the same strip that I was talking about, the project that we're doing. We was looking to try to acquire it. The city urban initiative, a project to try to utilize it and do some community activities and things of that nature. Is that something that you all will be able or could be able to assist in helping us out with, due to the fact that we're connecting to the different agencies in the community?
Yeah, I think we could definitely explore that with you. So part of what we're excited about with this program is that we have built relationships with folks at the Department of Transportation and Department of City Planning and Sanitation, and really look to be forming connections between our project partners and folks in city agencies who can help get this work through. So, definitely can't guarantee that through this project that you'd be able to acquire the space, but I think we could definitely explore how our, technical assistance teams and how our connections with city agencies might be able to support that conversation, furthering that conversation. Yeah. Thanks, Angus. Other questions? I'm seeing Natalie in the chat, purchasing a vacant lot to be used by the community. That is a good question. I think that also is something that we could potentially explore through these projects. I think our team might want to think about that a little bit more, and happy to get back to you, Natalie, but I think it definitely is something we might be able to explore.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm seeing Karen's question in the chat as well. Could you give examples of the kinds of technical assistance that might be offered? Sure. Yeah, so types of technical assistance might include support from architects, urban planners, and engineers in site analysis, in sort of like feasibility planning for longer term interventions in public space. Our technical assistance providers, I think, can really support in a variety of ways, whether it's kind of like engineering planning, thinking about public spaces. If you're interested in in like potentially innovating or building structures or kind of programming elements that might support your cultural programming in public space. I think often, you know, some of our kind of designers are really interested in the kind of design build aspect of this work too. So how can we kind of help create a demonstration of the types of kind of programming work that might be supportive in public space. Those are just a couple examples, but happy to provide others as well. Allison, I'll pass it to you.
Hello, I just wanted to ask if you were able to submit more than one proposal for consideration.
Yeah, so can you say a little bit more? Do you mean two distinct spaces or from like two distinct ideas for the same space?
I would say more like two distinct projects because they're two different spaces.
Yeah, in that case, I would say definitely welcome to submit too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To piggyback on that question, I wanted to know what's the answer for the following one, if it's two separate spaces, but on the same project. Because I know she just, you just gave the answer for two separate projects, but the same project.
Got it. Yeah, I would say that makes sense to submit as one. You can kind of talk about the spaces and how they might relate to each other. But if you're thinking that the project, you would have a similar approach to both spaces, and I think it's fine to talk about that approach and then share in case they're the kind of multiple spaces. Bianca, I see your hand again.
Sorry. I'm curious about if you have thoughts about what you would consider around like using this for staffing, basically for payroll expenses. So like how much, like, are you like, yeah, up to 25% could be used for that, or 100%, or are there thoughts?
Yeah, so definitely recognize that, you know, this work is meaningful work by your staff and want to be able to support that as well. I would say we won't give like a hard and firm, you can only use X amount, but I would recommend, I think we recommend somewhere in like about, you know, a third or so for staffing to be able to also support some of the low bono technical assistance fees for the team and some of the kind of short-term activation and programming side. So in terms of scale, I think, you know, imagining what might make sense is about a third, but we're not going to kind of mandate exactly. I'm also seeing in the chat, Abigail is asking, would graphic design, e.g. wayfinding signage, fall under the technical assistance offerings? Yeah, so answer here is yes. So we are lucky to have some awesome graphic designers in our network who can who will likely bring on based on teams' needs to support with things that could be like wayfinding signage. It could be if you have kind of, you know, local storytelling or history work that you want to be doing that involves some sort of signage. I feel like that could definitely make sense for graphic design as well. But yes, short answer is we have folks in our network who can support with graphic design. That being said, if you do have folks in your neighborhoods that you'd want to bring on as collaborators, as kind of creative collaborators that are graphic designers, definitely welcome that too. And you know, we can work together to think about how, if at all, they want to be you know, brought on as the low bono technical assistants or as collaborators. So we're open to that conversation as well. I'm seeing Taylor in the chat. If there are multiple organizations applying together for one project, should there be a lead organization in the interest forum, and how will the funding side work with 3 to 4 organizations? That's a great question, Taylor. Thank you for raising it. And with this one, I would say we may need to get back to you and happy to have further conversation. I think for the interest form, if it is one cohesive project, I would suggest submitting one form, but listing all interested parties as collaborators. And I think in general, we likely will ask for the team to eventually kind of nominate a lead. I don't think we need to do that right now during this proposal process. So if you have a couple contacts that you'd like to include in the interest form, that's fine. We're happy to, you know, have conversations with a few of you together to think about what team structure might make the most sense for you in this collaboration. So we really want to work with you to think about what makes sense based on what you're trying to do together, and you know, who is best positioned to do what. So I think I would say that, you know, we'll kind of work with you on a one-on-one basis to also structure the funding side. Jim, I see your hand again.
I was wondering, one of the first questions that comes up on the interest form is, it asks if you're an ANHD or a UDF member.
Yeah.
Or am I? How if I'm not, how do I do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so on the UDF side, Jim, you may actually be a COMT member from being a speaker in the past. I'm not totally sure. I'd have to check our systems, but UDF members are often, you know, folks in the design and planning field writ large, but it is basically a yearly membership fee to join our membership. So you're welcome to join if you'd like to. ANHD, Catherine, I might actually ask you if you know about their process for bringing on members, but otherwise I'm happy to like ask our folks at ANHD on how folks can join.
Yeah, I think we can follow up with that, but also just want to clarify, you don't need to be an ANHD or UDF member.
Right.
That's just kind of for our tracking purposes.
Yep.
Right,
Yeah,
but
definitely want to, yeah.
so I'd like to be part of it too, if that's possible.
Totally, yeah.
Yes. Okay, if possible, can you email us all a link to
Sure.
for more information on that?
Sure, yeah, happy to do that.
And what are the benefits?
Sure, yeah, so I can talk about the UDF side, and I will say too that from joining, you know, this program as a partner, you will kind of join both of our networks as well. But from the UDF side, in addition to this project, we also run a series of a whole range of programs on kind of urban design and planning issues in New York City. So that ranges from kind of working groups, research working groups to events and site visits and things like that. So there's a lot kind of going on the Urban Design Forum side, and I'm happy to share a link to our website to learn more. And then of course, you know, this program in particular. And on the NHG side, they are really awesome in supporting community development corporations and other community development organizations with things like capacity building and training. They do awesome coalitions around various issues in the city. So they're a really great, awesome crew to be connected with too. So happy to share more information about both of us as well. Other questions?
I did have another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Suppose there's multiple organizations with per se 501c3s or some that don't have none, and projects are within the same area and may overlap. Would it could those organizations be connected and behind the scenes to maneuver this project and get it into way? So let's say out of the 4 that was selected, there was 2 organizations in the same area, and their project kind of it's not the same, but they have aspects where it can kind of touch on each other or cross.
Yeah.
Could they per se work done
together,
you know,
potentially.
externally, or even if there's 2 organizations that's applying for the same type of something in the same community, would you all connect them together to see maybe if they would be able to partner together on the project?
Yeah, thanks, Angus. That's a great question. I think I would say that we would probably think about making those connections in the earlier stage. So before we select the 4 partners. So I think if you know of other folks that are interested in applying that are also in your neighborhood, like I would just welcome everyone to submit an interest form for now. And I think once we kind of see the breadth of folks that have submitted interest forms, I think we'll definitely like consider potentially having conversations with folks that might be in neighborhoods that have adjacent or overlapping public spaces to see if they might be interested in collaborating. But yeah, so long story short, I think definitely open to supporting those conversations. I think we would likely not do it after the stage where we have already selected 4 partners, but in the earlier stage. So we probably support a kind of collaboration in advance of going to the jury. Other questions? Right. Well, I know we've been spending our lunch hour together. I'm grateful to you all for your time in the middle of the day on the Thursday. I'll give it just a minute or 2 more in case folks are processing and thinking about what this all might mean for your ideas, in case other questions come up. So please feel free to still, raise a hand. Oh, Bruce, I see you again. I'll pass it back to you.
Unmute. All right. I don't know if this is relevant now. But so I've already submitted this interest form.
Yeah.
And so the next step is basically we'll be contacted and either there's interest or there's no interest.
Yeah. So basically from here, we will do an initial pass just to see if folks are kind of baseline eligible. If they are, we'll reach out to everyone to basically have a conversation, to basically learn more about your project and work together to develop a very lightweight proposal that will then be presented to the jury in January. So that'll look something like, maybe it's a 45-minute to an hour-long Zoom call together, and that'll be, us. We'll just help ask some targeted questions about the things you're thinking about and to help you kind of advance your thinking, for us to put together basically a simple proposal that'll then be presented to the jury. So we are excited to start those conversations as on a rolling basis as the submissions come in. So Bruce, you mentioned you already had submitted, so we'll check in about the fiscal sponsor question you asked. But if that's all clear to go, we'll likely be in touch in the next couple of weeks to have our conversation. And same goes for other folks who may have already submitted. We're trying to do this on a rolling basis, recognizing that that we just want to support connecting with you all and helping advance the thinking about what these projects could be.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. All right. Well, we're 10 minutes or so early. I feel actually, let me just look in the chat to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Yep. So just seeing some questions in the chat about the recording of the session. So we'll be putting it up, pardon me, on our website early next week. And I'm happy to share that link around with everyone on this call, so that you can take a look back, share it with your colleagues, all of that. Awesome. And as I mentioned at the top, but if you have additional questions or just want to kind of think through your idea a little bit together more one-on-one, we're really happy to have conversations about this. So lococultures@urbandesignforum.org, I'll put it in the chat, is the best way to reach, sorry, I'm typing and there we go, is the best way to reach our team. But we're just excited to continue these conversations with y'all. All right. Well, I think we'll end for today. Thanks everyone for joining, and looking forward to hearing all your great ideas. Take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Do the same.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
y'all. Have a great afternoon.